Good afternoon YouTube and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we are back at Engine Dynamics in Colchester, Essex to get Matt's Clio 200. Matt cammed, new cam belt, new exhaust, so join us on today's video. Good morning YouTube and welcome back to the channel. In this episode, part 2, we collect the Clio 200. Now Andy and the team have worked the magic and we'll go over all the parts that have been fitted on bringing the best out of this naturally aspirated 2 litre. So with the stage 2 package completed, for those that are familiar with rolling road graphs, hopefully you can see the improvements there and I'll go over it now. So peak figures, obviously that's what everyone wants to talk about down the pub. The car drove in with 198.4 horsepower and it leaves today with 220.1. More importantly in this graph, and the thing that people often overlook in games, is the actual drivability of the car. So the top graph is the horsepower, and you can see the red graph is the stage 2, and the blue is the one we drove in with, which had that unknown map, unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be delivering at all. And then down below, we've got the torque graph, and this is the important part. This is where you actually use the car on the road, the drivability. So as we've known with cams, there is always going to be a payoff potentially in the lower RPM. And what you've got here is sort of sub 3,000 RPM. The cams can't quite match the standard package. So if you're someone who enjoys driving the car, which would be bizarre to own one of these and keep it below 3,000 RPM, this is not the package for you. But once you're past that point, at some stages we're seeing 15 foot-pounds of torque improvement over what the car drove in with. So overall, super excited to get it on the road. And like I say, I can overlay the figures now. So overall, the peak torque improvement and the best gain in the mid-range, we've gone from 162.9 foot-pounds of torque to 175.2. And as you can see, all the way to the red line, there's an improvement. There is absolutely no drop-off compared to the standard setup that we drove in with. The final thing I'll add to the rolling road graph from today is it's always important to see a dyno as a measuring tool, not to get hung up on the numbers. Now, you could dyno the car at one place with a base figure, and then you could obviously take it somewhere else to be mapped without a base run, and it would be completely different. The beauty of what we've got here is it is a clear before and after of what the car drove in with. Regardless of whether the dyno underreads, overreads, it's clear we've made over 20 horsepower peak and 15 foot-pounds of torque. So an overview with the items that were fitted to the car when it arrived. As you can see, this is not a standard catback exhaust. This is actually the item from Akrapovic. Now, the reason Matt decided not to keep with this system is in the standard manifold, it has a catalyst, which here in the UK we require for emissions. If you do decat the car, it can make it incredibly smelly. And obviously, if you got stopped, it wouldn't be road compliant. Now, if you install an aftermarket manifold, you lose that pre-catalyst. And unfortunately on the Akrapovic, it doesn't have space for one unless you wanted to chop it apart. Now, with it being such an expensive system, unfortunately that wasn't an option. So he's gone with a full 2.5 inch replacement, which I'll overlay the clips of now. The other thing that's really good in this upgrade is the standard manifold, as you can see here, are known to fail at the flexi joints. Now, this one's got to a point where it's failed very badly and it's actually knocking on the subframe of the car, which you can see there. So certainly, especially if you are looking for some improvements and an upgrade, worth considering. Part of the engine dynamics stage 2 package is the Catcam camshafts. Now, these camshafts, although they're not a bad bit of kit because they will eventually be going into my 172 Cup, they don't deliver the numbers that we hope for, especially as the Mark III gained considerable weight over the Mark II. Now, these camshafts, like I say, work very well with the standard management, especially if you drive the car daily and you didn't want to go over 3,000 RPM. But you don't buy this car to sit below 3,000 RPM. If you do want to enjoy it on fast road driving or track days, the Catcam package is definitely the one to go for. The final piece to the puzzle was an upgraded air filter. Now, the factory airbox, Andy does say, does a considerably well job with the space confinements that are in the engine bay. But if you want that absolute everything and pushing the power, it is advised to run an aftermarket unit. Now, there are a few options on the market. Problem being is you do have a battery in the way. So with this solution, it's an open filter, probably not going to be ideal in traffic, but when you're moving along, track days, fast B-road blasting, you shouldn't have any major issues with air inlet temperatures.